Game week 4 is here in the Premier League after the international break. Unfortunately, the next international break is less than a month away, so let's crack on. No time to waste in this latest episode of The Prediction Show. Now, Saturday is a huge day of football with 8 games being played, including a managerial debut. That's where we start for Ange Postecoglou. Nottingham Forest away at Arsenal. We will cover that game. We are putting together a bet builder for that game, so stay tuned for that. There is also multiple derbies across the Premier League this weekend, including the big one on Sunday, the Manchester derby. And we have a massive update to show you to the player props tool. We'll be using that to put together a treble for this weekend. And speaking of trebles, well done if you were on this from our recent video, our EFL video during the international break, just showing that you do not need the Premier League to succeed with OddAlerts. And it is a very super Sunday in the Premier League. As I mentioned before, the Manchester derby is taking place, and you know the drill by now. 1,000 likes on this video, and I will be back here Sunday morning with another video previewing Sunday's games in the Premier League. And additionally, for this video, if it gets 5,000 likes, I will make an extra video. So potentially 2 more videos. You're in control of my destiny. So without further ado, let's get into it. These are the games. We have 8 games being played on Saturday, including an 8 p.m. kickoff, as we can see here. I'm going to go through all of the games here, give you my initial thoughts and feelings and predictions. And I also want to get your predictions in the comments. I've actually got a question for you to make it very easy for you, because every comment is automatically entered into a draw to win OddAlerts Pro. I like to give back to the community, especially the community on YouTube. And all I want to know is, across these 8 games, how many goals will be scored? A little bit of data so far to help you is that there has been 2.6 goals per game on average in the Premier League this season. So how many will we see across those 8 games? I think the math is 20.8 goals based on the average. You can't have 0.8 of a goal, can you? So I'm going to go with 26 goals. My brain doesn't let me pick an odd number for some reason. What's your prediction? Get it in the comments. I look forward to reading them. So Arsenal hosting Forest. You would say that was a pretty nice game for them, but of course there could be a new manager bounce. Former Tottenham manager Ange Postecoglou is in, Nuno is out. And so far, Forest have conceded in every game played this season. 3 out of 3 in the Premier League. They're not the only team to have that record, as we'll see in a moment. Ange Postecoglou, will he stick or will he twist in terms of the way he sets up this Nottingham Forest team? Is there enough time, a few training sessions, for him to get them to play that infamous high line? I think Gyökeres and Madueke and Eze, by the way, it's hard to look past Arsenal, isn't it, for this one? They will hope that Ange Postecoglou is going to deploy that high line, especially with those 2 defenders. Now, I mentioned that Forest are not the only team to concede in every game. In fact, they are one of 5 teams to do so in the Premier League. And another team is Brighton, who travel to face Bournemouth in the first of the 3 p.m. games that we will cover. For all the departures in the defence at Bournemouth, they come into this with 2 out of 3 clean sheets. They have only conceded to Liverpool in a game where they played very, very well at Anfield. What a job Iraola continues to do there. No wonder he is being linked with the Manchester City job after Pep leaves. Now, Crystal Palace will be an interesting watch across the next few weeks. The games are coming thick and fast. They have 6 games across the next 20 or so days, and this includes a trip to Poland, away from home to face Dynamo Kiev, who are playing their games in Poland. That is a Conference League fixture. And all of this they must do without Eze, without Sarr. The latter, Sarr, will return, but not for the next couple of weeks, it is expected. So who is going to supply Mateta in a side that puts so much focus in getting the ball up to him quickly? Adam Wharton is also out, which is a massive blow. Sunderland find themselves 5th coming into this, but did fail to score away at Burnley, so an improvement is needed. I think that this could be a tricky game for Crystal Palace. Now, speaking of teams that have failed to score, Aston Villa are away at Everton this weekend, the second game at Everton's new home. And I think this could be another tricky game for Aston Villa, given the way Everton have started, given the players that they've got now at the top end of the pitch. But surely for Aston Villa, they find the back of the net in this one. Morgan Rogers looked sensational for England, but so far for Aston Villa, he's been unable to capture that kind of form for Aston Villa. What I will say about Everton is that they've conceded plenty of chances so far this season, especially in that home game that they did win against Brighton. Brighton really did cause them some issues in the first half, and of course Pickford saved a penalty as well. And they have actually conceded over 2 XG against in 2 of their 3 opening games. Fulham hosting Leeds, and I would just want to focus on Leeds for a moment here. I think the sacking of Nuno is going to prick up the ears of the chief executives and the directors at Leeds, at Wolves, at West Ham, because he does an amazing job in taking teams from battling relegation to mid-table and beyond. And I think Leeds, if they are smart, would be picking up the phone and ringing his agent right now and just checking his availability and just checking if he does in fact fancy the chance of managing Leeds, because they have a chance to get ahead of the game, because there's no doubt that one of the teams near the bottom will sack their manager this season. No doubt. It happens every single season. Just get ahead of the game, because every single team that struggles this season and sacks their manager is going to head straight to Nuno to try and hire him. Big game at St James's Park as Newcastle host Wolves. Perfect game for them, really. They need a win and a chance to kickstart their season while showing that there is life after Isak. Wolves are another one of those teams that have conceded in every single game played so far this season. Newcastle have won the last 3 meetings between these two teams and are unbeaten in this fixture in the last 7. West Ham against Spurs, another of the derbies in the Premier League this weekend, and it was Potter that put the final nail in Nuno's coffin at Nottingham Forest. A 3-0 victory away from home with all goals coming in the second half. Jared Bowen was on fire that game, and they've kept hold of Paqueta as well, which was important, and that result, the transfer window closing, that kind of week can really revitalise a squad and lift the mood, and I think West Ham can score against this Tottenham team that will be still scratching their heads at that performance against Bournemouth. They had 1 shot on target at home. And from one London derby to another, we have Brentford against Chelsea. The news around Chelsea at the moment focuses on injuries. Delap is out until November. Jackson finally did get his move to Bayern Munich. And João Pedro, at 2 a.m. on Wednesday morning UK time, was on the pitch for Brazil. So despite the billions spent, they could be a little bit light in the centre-forward role. João Pedro will not be fresh, but he is expected to start. I guess you could say it's a benefit for Chelsea that this game is taking place at 8 p.m, a few extra hours for these players to recover. No such issues at the back, though, for Chelsea. They've conceded just 1 goal this season, and that was Paqueta's wonder strike. If you could call it that, I would put more emphasis on a blunder from the keeper. There's a chance that Garnacho or Gittins come in to start this game, as Cole Palmer is still expected to be out. The exciting Estavio as well is expected to start. He scored a great goal for Brazil during the break. So Chelsea could be a few tired legs in this team for Chelsea, and Brentford's never an easy place to go. Despite Thomas Frank leaving the club, Brentford are only one of 3 teams to have scored in every Premier League game so far: Liverpool, Bournemouth and Brentford. So let's make some early predictions here for the games, and of course we're going to put together some selections. Whilst I'm doing this, get your predictions in the comments. Arsenal against Forest, I think we will see Ange go for this game and show his intent early on. As we saw at Tottenham, he doesn't mind losing if it means he's showcasing something. And to be honest, Forest have got some good players that might suit his style at the top end of the pitch, not so much at the other end. So I'm going to go with a 3-1 Arsenal victory. Bournemouth against Brighton, there's been goals in recent meetings between these teams, and as we'll see on the form guide, these two teams are just very, very well coached at the moment. Both teams do like to counter, which can sometimes counter each other out. I'm going to go with a high-scoring game, though, and I think we could see a 2-2 draw for this one. Crystal Palace, Sunderland, as I said in the intro and the little analysis there, I think it could be a tricky game for Palace, and I actually would go Sunderland or draw for this one. I think the injuries are a bit too much for Crystal Palace. No Wharton, no Eze, of course, now, no Sarr. I just don't see who comes in and replaces that creativity at the moment, and Crystal Palace defence is fantastic. We know that. So this could be an edgy game, 1-1 or 1-0 to Sunderland is my prediction. Everton against Aston Villa, my prediction for this one is BTTS. I think Everton have conceded a lot of chances if you watch their games, despite getting a clean sheet in the first victory at home. Pickford penalty save, and also many chances in the first half. It's a wonder how Brighton didn't score in that game. I think Aston Villa, Unai Emery is too good to struggle for too long. He will get these players working again. He will try something and he will find a solution. I'm going to go BTTS. Pretty tough to call because of how Everton are playing at the top end of the pitch. Fulham against Leeds. This one could be a pretty tight game. I'm going to go with a 1-1 correct score result, and that also kind of features in our bet slips, as you'll see in a moment. Newcastle against Wolves. I think we're going to see Newcastle get a good result here. They are 1.44 for the victory, so very much expected to win this game. I'm going to go with a 3-1 victory for Newcastle. Over 1.5 goals for Newcastle is about 1.6. Maybe that's something you can add to your selections this weekend if you are also confident. I just think Wissa coming in and Walter Maid, I think that's how you say it. It sounds like a sort of jam, doesn't it, that? But he looks a good player, and Wissa as well. If they play as a pair, that could be very interesting. Anthony Gordon looked pretty sharp for England as well. So I think life after Isak starts now for Newcastle, and they will get a victory. West Ham against Tottenham. I think West Ham have got enough to continue and try and build on that momentum and get a goal against Tottenham. Again, BTTS and over 2.5 goals. I just want to watch Tottenham for a few weeks because they were really disappointing in that game. But they've got Xavi Simons coming in for this one. He could unlock a lot for them if he is going to play in that number 10 role. So we'll have to wait and see a few weeks to see how Tottenham do. But my prediction there is BTTS. And Brentford-Chelsea, I'm going to go with a narrow Chelsea win, 2-1. I think Brentford will continue to surprise people. Everybody expects them to just get relegated because they've lost Mbeumo, Wissa and the manager. But I think there is still life in Brentford, and I'm going to have them to score but lose against Chelsea on Saturday night. Now we move to the football form guide, and remember to get your predictions in the comments. Remember to like the video and subscribe if you are new. Some of you are not new and you're still not subscribed. What's that about? So we'll start by looking at the last 6 games, and we are looking at games won. Chelsea with 5 out of 6 wins. If we scroll to the bottom of this list, we see that Newcastle have won just 1 of the last 5 games, as have Wolves. They're playing each other this weekend, and I think that come Saturday, 5-6 p.m, Newcastle will be off the bottom of this list. Newcastle to beat Wolves. So let me know what you think in the comments. Now, if you're somebody that likes goals, we all do, don't we? West Ham are the team to follow at the moment. Same goes for Manchester City and Burnley. Both of them playing on Sunday. Remember, 1,000 likes, and I'll be back here on Sunday morning. The majority of goals for West Ham have been conceded. That's why, over 2.5 goals, usually they're the ones conceding 3 or more goals. But I think that performance at Forest, it will give them confidence going into this game. And I think this can continue, over 2.5 goals in West Ham against Tottenham. Next up, most shots on target. We can see Manchester United are at the top of this list. Do they need to improve their finishing? They've had more shots on target than their opponents in 5 of the last 6 games. Brighton also up there. They were so impressive against Manchester City, and I really actually cannot wait for that game. I'm going to be watching this game. That's going to have most of my attention. Brighton against Bournemouth. 2 brilliantly coached teams coming up against each other. Let's take a look at the bottom of this list, which is interesting because we have another couple of teams at the bottom facing each other. Aston Villa have had more shots than their opponents in 1 of the last 5. The same goes for Everton. And that is quite interesting given how Everton have started in terms of scoring goals. When you watch Everton, they seem to just score the chances that they get. They've been very clinical at the moment, and they're creating very good chances, high XG chances. You think back post tap-ins. They've scored a couple of back post tap-ins. Grealish getting the ball, shifting it, putting it across, and someone's there to just let it hit them and go in. And it doesn't matter how you create chances, how you score goals, just that you do. Next up, we'll take a look at total XG per 90. Man City 3.9, Brighton 3.59. Now, this is total XG, so XG for and against. We can see Burnley are up there. Fulham and Leeds, they're the teams that I want to focus on right now because they will feature in our selections in a moment. Both with 3 or above total XG per 90. Now we'll take a look at XG against. We can see that Burnley are conceding the most chances, as are Fulham, but just keep in mind it's a small sample size and they have both had penalties against them, both against Manchester United as well. Bruno missed his penalty against Fulham and then scored against Burnley. And I also want to flag Brighton as well, 1.55 per game. And the team that they are playing, Bournemouth, are bottom of this list. Now, being bottom of this list is a good thing. 0.66 XG per game. They've been away to Tottenham already as well, Bournemouth. They played away at Liverpool as well. What a start to the season Bournemouth have made. And Newcastle there as well, 0.69. They've hosted Liverpool, who, again, was so clinical, but the XG wasn't that high. And I think Liverpool, when they faced Newcastle, only had 4 or 5 shots in the game. And of course, they scored most of them. So interesting to see there. Newcastle's underlying data defensively is still solid. And AFC Bournemouth, they deserve so much credit because they have lost the majority of their defence. So for them to be at the top of this list, I know it's the bottom, but it's the top, 0.66 XG per 90. It's only been 3 games, but what a start to the season for Bournemouth. Next, one of my favourite markets, BTTS. Liverpool 5 of the last 6, and the majority of their games ended with BTTS before they played Arsenal recently. Manchester United 5 of the last 6. Will they score in the Manchester derby? Sunderland 4 of the last 6, incidentally. And we'll just end by showing you a couple of metrics that have been added recently to the Football Form Guide. Link in the description if you want to check this tool out. And that is first half and second half metrics. So we can see here total first half goals, total second half goals. Let's look at that. We can see that no team has seen more second half goals than Manchester City. In terms of scoring in the second half, Brighton have got 13 in their last 6 games overall. BTTS in the first half, Everton 3 out of 6. Interesting stuff. Most goals in the second half, again, Sunderland 5 out of 6. Arsenal 4 out of 6. Interesting, they are the 12:30 kickoff as well after the international break, so potentially some tired legs. And we'll end the form guide section here by looking at shots on target against, and it does not look good for Wolves at the moment. 33 shots on target against in the last 6 competitive games. Tottenham 31 shots on target against. Nottingham Forest 28, Brentford 28. At the bottom of this list, Leeds United. Now, I think some of their games, maybe 2 or 3 of them, are probably Carabao Cup and back end of the Championship, so bear that in mind. Crystal Palace, we know how good they are defensively, but at the top end of the pitch, I think they'll struggle over the next few weeks. Let me know what you think, of course, in the comments. Liverpool, Sunderland, Arsenal, United, Everton, Burnley. Okay, let's now move to see our Arsenal bet builder and our 3 p.m. bet builder. So here is the bet builder for the Arsenal game, BTTS. I'm going to go with Ange Postecoglou setting up in a positive manner. Saliba will be out for this game. Ben White is 50-50. Timber is an attacking fullback. He's still a very good fullback, don't get me wrong. But I think Nottingham Forest will go for this game. Ange Postecoglou, as I said, will want to put a marker down as to show this is how I want to play. This is how we want to attack teams. And Madueke's shot on target, been very impressed with him recently. We had this in our previous bet builder for Arsenal in that Liverpool game, and he had a shot on target. He was very good for England as well, so direct. I think he's actually got something over Saka, which is that physical drive that he can get past players. Saka's still a brilliant player, don't get me wrong, but I think Madueke does offer something a little bit different for Arsenal. And I'm going to go with Arsenal to score in the second half at 4s. So that is the selection. Let me know what you think about this one. I mentioned it a moment ago. This being the first game after the international break could be a little bit leggy in that first 45 minutes. Arsenal saw 4 out of 6, was it? Most goals in the second half in recent games. So let's see if they can get one in the second half. I think Arsenal are firm favourites for this game, given the attacking talent at the top end of the pitch. Now to the 3 p.m. Premier League treble. I'm going to go with Palace to get over 1.5 cards. I think the battle in the middle of the pitch is going to be a little bit more difficult with Adam Wharton not in there. Granit Xhaka, of course, playing for Sunderland now, who have made some fantastic signings in the middle of the pitch, especially. I think Sunderland will be quite confident in going there and putting up a good performance. So I think Palace will get a couple of cards in this game. And we saw the total XG for both Fulham and Leeds. I'm going to go with over 1.5 goals in that game. And then finally, BTTS in Everton against Aston Villa. I've been very impressed with Everton and Aston Villa. For me, Unai Emery is one of the best coaches in the world. I think he cannot have a run like this for too long. He will fix this problem. He will find a solution. And maybe, just maybe, the start of that solution is away at Everton. I think they will score Aston Villa. I would be very, very surprised if they continue to blank, especially against an Everton team that do give you chances. But on the flip side of that, new stadium, there is a certain energy and bounce that comes with that, especially if you do it right, like Everton have. The atmosphere was incredible in that first game, and the fans cannot wait to get back in there to see their team again. So for the first maybe half of the season, every home game is going to be like a sort of cup final for Everton, and the atmosphere is going to be electric. So I think Everton will score, as will Aston Villa. This is the player props tool. This next section, we're going to use this tool to find some data for the Premier League. And now what you can do, this is a brand new feature. You can click on competitions and you can then search for Premier League, and we can see England Premier League. We click that and now we can show all Premier League players together in a single list. So let's look at the last 10 games, shall we? And we will take a look at fouls. Let's have a look at fouls across the last 10. We have Sasa Lukic, who was actually booked against England the other night. We mentioned that on X, and he got booked in the first half. We also had a winning selection on X and Discord for the England game. So well done if you were on that. Munoz for a foul. I quite like that already, just given how Sunderland, I think, will put pressure on Crystal Palace. I've mentioned that many times in this video. Cucurella is up there as well. And we can continue to look at fouls here, and we can see Karu Mitoma pops up here. And I wanted to show you something here. You can click on the player icon here, and we're going to look at his previous fixtures. So he's just been away on international duty, only played 28 minutes in the game against the United States. We're going to go into the Manchester City game because I want to show you this. He made 6 fouls against Manchester City. That is pretty incredible. Will he continue to foul at that level? 6 fouls against Manchester City, absolutely insane. So from fouls, let's take a look at total shots, shall we? Across the last 10 games, Haaland, Palmer, Isak, Xavi Simons, if he starts, could be an option. Evan Nielsen, 2.4 per game. That could be an option. Let's now jump to Bet365, and if you're enjoying this tool, you can check it out in the description. It is now actually available for free users. You can use parts of it now, and this is also brand new, Player Prop Alerts. This will send you detailed insights based on the major leagues in the world ahead of the weekend, so you'll be able to get insights, value bets, all player driven, all driven from this tool as well. So you can connect to the OddAlerts bot and set that up this weekend if you want to do so, and of course link in the description if you want to check out this tool. So based on the data there that we just saw, here is the treble. Mitoma to commit a foul, he made 6 against Manchester City. Evan Nielsen to have 1 or more shot on target in the same game, Bournemouth against Brighton, and then Munoz to commit more than 1 foul in that game. I'm putting a lot of pressure and hope on Sunderland this weekend. Let's hope they do not let us down. 3.16. Let me know what you think in the comments. So I'll leave you here with the probability model for Saturday's games. If you've enjoyed this one, please do hit like, hit subscribe. It means a lot. 1,000 likes and I'll be here for Sunday. 5,000 likes and I'll be here with a video on La Liga or Serie A or the Bundesliga. It's up to you. Let me know in the comments and I will see you in the next one.